Welcome back to Casa Refined. I'm Jorge. Today I have a pretty special video for you as I'm going to DIY some vintage mid-century modern inspired decor using items I found at the thrift store. I'm going to be honest with you, this table lamp I found at the thrift store for $3. Yes, $3, which is a really great deal. It's in great condition. However, the sort of lacquered brass, it's not even real brass, but that brass finish just isn't for me. It just feels a bit too polished. The color tone of that specifically leans somehow more cool tone. I don't know what it is about this lamp, but I'm gonna reimagine it and really get inspired by a lot of lamps that I often have in my cart on Cherish, those mid-century modern, almost Danish lamps that really have a beautiful patina, a little bit of color, but of course come with a hefty price tag. What I love about this lamp is not just the fact that it was $3, but it has that similar form, that similar shape as those Danish or mid-century modern style lamps that I'm getting inspired by, but clearly it's not the same thing. Don't worry, I think we can get there with a couple of steps. First things first, let's address this shiny sort of brass look. The lamps that I like have that antique, almost like an oiled brass finish. So we're gonna do that with this stuff right here. This is actually my first time using it, and this is decorative finish wax. I think some furniture flippers use this for sort of antiquing their pieces. So I'm just doing my best to apply the wax with a lint-free cloth here, kind of just spreading it around, kind of tapping some areas. Nothing to it really. I will say I feel like maybe I added too much, but overall I think this looks a lot better than the different than the shiny sort of brass look. And then I'm also applying it right under the lamp shade part. We're gonna address that middle stem in a moment, but once that fully dried, I give it a clear coat of matte spray. But what about the lampshade? Great question. Of course I could apply the wax, but why not introduce some color? And I think this red is gonna be perfect. It will give it some character, and honestly I think red is just speaking to me these days. The lamp base is now dry, but we're not done quite yet. Initially, I wanted to wrap this with some cane, but I could not find what I was looking for, so I ordered this leather cord on Amazon. Pretty inexpensive, and I think this is going to introduce a new material, add a bit of character, and I do feel this will elevate this lamp. So now I am applying some Elmer's glue all so that it will stick to the base and just wrapping it around. Also using some hot glue here and there. A bit tedious, but overall I think it'll be worth it. If I were to do this again, I might consider a lighter color for the cord. Despite that, I do think this color will still work. Let me know what you would do. And with that, my table lamp is now complete. I still cannot believe this was $3, but with a little bit of patience and love, I was able to give it new life. Let's see it styled in my house. Honestly, I'm very impressed. Not bad. Let me know your thoughts on this. Now here is an interesting square plastic tub. I actually found this at the thrift store. I think it was like $1, but I think this would make for an interesting mold if we take this Pyrex glass like casserole and use it together with this to create maybe a brutalist mid-century modern style tray, perhaps. Let's see what that would look like. I want to create a beautiful brutalist catch-all tray that's made out of concrete but looks like it's made out of stone, and this is going to serve as the perfect mold. But of course we do need a prep. I'm going to wrap it with some saran wrap, which by the way, I have this one from Costco, the Kirkland brand. Oh my gosh, I've had this for at least 10 to 15 years. I don't know why this lasts so long, but my goodness, there's still a lot left. Anyways, wrapping it with some saran wrap and using some WD-40, some oil, some like cooking oil will also work, just so that the concrete doesn't stick to it fully. Speaking of concrete, this is what I will be using for that. This is stucco patch. I've never used this before, but I feel like it will really help create that stone look that I'm going for. All I have to do is add some water, and unlike the concrete or cement mixes that I've worked in the past, it doesn't require as much water. Traditionally, stucco can be applied on a vertical surface, so of course we don't want that to be runny. Similar here, we don't want this to be runny. Although I could have added a bit more water, but I think this will be fine. So I'm spreading it onto the tub, and then I'm going to apply the sort of casserole thing to create the indentation, to create that beautiful tray look. I'm not going to leave this overnight or anything. I'm just going to set this aside for a couple of minutes, maybe 10 to 15, just enough so that it hardens. Been about 15 minutes, and I will now release this from the mold before it becomes too hard to do so. Now of course this is not fully cured, but I think it's hard enough to work with, so I'm being very careful. I don't want to break this. Just a little tap here and there. That should pop right off, as you can see. Now it is a bit rough around the edges. That's okay. I think we can sand some of that off. Now I'll proceed with some wet sanding, which I prefer because it creates less dust. Of course we do not want to inhale the cement dust. Taking some hard grit sandpaper, cleaning up those edges as best as I can. It doesn't need to be perfect because at the end of the day, stone or rocks, they're not perfect, and neither is this. I think that will make it look more like stone, but it doesn't look like that quite yet. It needs a color treatment. This is where the fun begins. There are a few different ways to paint concrete. Here's one technique that I like to use. I like to wet the concrete and then apply the paint. In this case, a watered down acrylic. This is going to allow that paint to sort of get into the pores of the concrete. It'll absorb it almost like a stain. This will be longer lasting. Today I am starting off with some dark brown paint, and then we'll layer in some color to create that variation in colors that you see in natural stone. Let's let this dry for a few minutes. Next, I am layering in some aqua color. I won't lie, I was feeling a bit hesitant, a bit nervous applying this. I feel like I was going to ruin the whole thing, but let's trust the process and have faith that this will work out in the end. Next, I'll add some orange. Yes, you heard that right. Orange with some brown to create an interesting medium brown. Did I lose the plot? Maybe I did with this color because it was a bit disturbing. I feel like the colors, there was potential, but once that dried, I wasn't happy with it entirely. I felt like something was missing. So I went in with a gray, like a lighter gray with lots of water, really watered down to create a wash. I do apologize. I was in the moment and forgot to record that, but here is what it ended up looking like once it dried. I am so happy with how the colors came together. It does look like real stone. I even had so much fun. I made a few extra in case you want to get your hands on one of these. I will link it in the description, but overall, such a beautiful, rustic, but modern brutalist bowl. Let me know your thoughts. Now here is an interesting DIY from the past. This is a piece that I found at the thrift store. When I first saw this, I thought it was ugly, but I could see the potential for this, and I often see these types of DIYs that people donate. These were probably popular at some point, but basically this is a piece of plywood with a sort of squiggly, more organic frame cutout, if you will. On the board is mounted a print. In this case, it is a mountainscape. Over time, because it's covered with resin, is that it's turned yellow, it's discolored, the UV probably got to it, and it's just not looking great anymore, if we're being honest. But I could see the potential for this, and that potential will require a bit of patience and some work. Overall, the funky or interesting border slash frame is asking, it's craving some abstract artwork. So let's do just that with some texture, and why not use some rope? Yes, rope has been an interesting medium for my textured work these days, so I'm going to use the rope to create, or I guess encompass the canvas, if you will, and then I will also use it to encompass some shapes that will then become the artwork. And here is how. Essentially, I'm creating a series of rectangles that will add some order to this otherwise really organic piece. I think the benefit from this is going to really help make the frame stand out, but also add balance. Now, yes, it is a bit sad covering up the existing art, but it's okay. It lived its life and it's just not in great condition. I am sealing off the edges with some caulking. This is going to make sure that it feels seamless and intentional. And for the texture, I'm opting for some paper mache clay. If you want to know what it is, how to make it, definitely check out my recent DIY large art video. I must say so, it's a pretty good video. I won't go in depth with it here, but I will say it's a really great material. So many possibilities with this, including creating texture as I'm doing here. I must admit, it's quite fun playing with it and just really honestly having fun. I absolutely love these bowls. Creating these was really fun, and I really sourced inspiration from the Maya pots that I have made in the past. These are of course perfect for all sorts of things, but this is a great statement piece for your coffee table, for your styling. I absolutely love the texture, the color variation within. Of course, there's the smaller version, both available in these two colors. And honestly, these are just really an act of love from mi casa to yours. Available now on the shop. I allowed the texture to dry overnight and it does become quite hard. That's okay. There are some areas where it feels almost sharp, so I'm going with some sandpaper to knock off some of those high points, clean it up. Before we start painting, it will require some primer. This will ensure we get the best coverage with our acrylic paint, and it'll be better in the long run. In lieu of the arguably orange frame, I think we need some neutrals, neutral palette rather, to help balance it all. So each rectangle will have its own identity, but I am beginning with some base coats of beige, with some cases adding some gray with some brown, and really I don't have a specific game plan here. It's just what's speaking to me. I won't lie, it's not always easy explaining what's going through my mind, but I do think it's fun and calming to watch. So let's just enjoy a little bit of the process of painting the rectangles. As you can see, I am opting for a warmer undertone, and it's all about the layers and using the texture to my advantage. So once the first coat dries, then I'm layering in a lighter coat, highlighting the texture, perhaps some splatter here and there. It's all about the process of giving each rectangle an identity, but adding some cohesion through the splatter and even the undertone of the beige. Let's further define these rectangles while also adding contrast with a charcoal color. And overall, I do think it makes it feel more interesting and compatible with the grand scheme of it all. I also decided to paint the borders with that same color. I think it helps define the artwork from the frame. We're pretty much at the end for this piece, but topping it all off with a warm wash, this to give it interest and character, I would say. We peel back the tape and expose our existing frame. A little bit of touch up here and there, but that will pretty much do it for this art piece. Overall, an interesting abstract interpretation, and I do love how I was able to reuse the beautiful frame. This is not something that I would normally gravitate towards in terms of the orange frame, but I kind of like it. Let me know your thoughts on this piece. Well friends, that'll do it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed these DIY projects. Honestly, I love creating. It's just a really fun exercise for me, and it's kind of amazing what you can do with a little bit of patience and love and just give something some new life. So I'm curious to know which of the 3 projects is your favorite. I think my favorite might be the table lamp, but honestly, I love them all. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. Have an awesome day, and before you go, don't forget to check out my new Brutalist bowls available now on CasaRefineShop.com. Of course, I will put the link in the description. Anyways, have an awesome day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.